Hi, I'm Jonny Moseley, and I'm stoked to introduce Cusp of Glory, a Tahoe coach's legacy. I've been part of the freestyle skiing world my whole life, and I'm fortunate enough to know the characters in this story personally. It's a story that I think will inspire you and also give you some insight into 4 freestyle skiers who have a lot more in common than just their goal of making the Olympic team in 2014. So whether you're already a fan of freestyle skiing or new to the sport, I think you'll be moved by the dedication, tenacity, and heart of these young athletes. Enjoy the ride.
We've traveled a long way, trained our whole lives, fought through injuries and tragedies to represent our families, our coaches, and our country for a shot at the gold.
Silver in 02. She was not in her top form in 06, had some injuries and some other incidents, but has really come back strong and is looking good for a medal in Vancouver. And she's looking great on course right now. Grew up skiing with her. She was an alpine racer in Squaw Valley. Really done a good job of transitioning from when we used to not do inverts in the moguls. She never did backflips until she had to and had a tough time getting there, but is now back on top of her game again with the podium last week. Excellent run there.
Shannon Bahrke, 29 years of age from Tahoe City, California. Good speed time, Johnny, 28.53. Her score comes down, look at this, a 24.96. So Shannon Bahrke going to Vancouver on a high note as she goes into first place right now with just 2 more women competitors.
One of the moments that I just love and I really try and carry with me every time is when I was standing in the gate before my final run, and it was just like everything was completely okay. And I've never had that before or since, of just completely everything's gonna be fine. And just standing in that gate, looking out over the crowd of 10,000 people, there wasn't a cloud in the sky, and it had just snowed like 2 feet the day before. So it was just this moment of like, I'm the luckiest person alive to be here right now in this moment, competing for my country and doing something that I love.
Hi, my name is Shannon Bahrke. You may recognize me from the past 3 Winter Olympic teams where I was fortunate enough to compete on the U.S. Olympic freestyle ski team. In 2002, I brought home a silver medal from Salt Lake City, Utah, and in 2010, a bronze medal from Vancouver, Canada. Being a member of 3 Olympic teams is absolutely amazing, and I am forever grateful. And because of this, I am part of this story. And I have an amazing opportunity to share with you a little bit about what it takes to be an Olympic hopeful, and so much more. Here, we will feature the journey of 4 young world-class athletes. My brother, Scotty Bahrke, an aerialist, Casey Oakley, who skis moguls like I did, and 2 super pipe skiers, David Weiss and Brita Sigourney. They are all on the U.S. ski team, which has gone through some dramatic changes in the past few years, especially with the introduction of the freeride events. Their disciplines are diverse and each requires a unique set of skills. While moguls and aerials have been a part of the Olympic tradition for many years now, in 2014, ski superpipe will make its debut at the Winter Olympics in Sochi, Russia. So what do these incredible athletes have in common? Yes, they are all on the US ski team, but more importantly, they began training and competing out of Lake Tahoe, California. In fact, they all, including myself, started out with the very same coach, Clay Beck, and practically grew up together on the ALPINE MEADOWS freestyle team. We will look at their common experiences, their camaraderie, and friendships that go way, way back. I have to say, I find it pretty amazing that I have had the Olympic career that I have had, and now these 4 young athletes sit on the cusp of theirs. And we all have 2 important things in common, Lake Tahoe and Clay Beck, one of the winningest coaches, a man who not only helped produce these winners in their own chosen disciplines, but was instrumental in growing the sport of freeride skiing to the Olympic level. So this story is also a tribute to Clay, a coach and mentor that we all love, who provided that foundation for us to take our sport to new heights. So welcome to our story on the Cusp of Glory, a Tahoe coach's legacy. And also welcome to Lake Tahoe, one of the most awesome places on earth.
David Wise is looking for something better than a 91.4, and the judges give it to him, a 93.8 for the American. David Wise goes into first place. Let's start.
This world is filled with opportunities. It's just a matter of recognizing them, grabbing hold, and never letting go. Cusp of Glory. We won't give up. We will give it our all. We will dedicate our lives to what we love and do it with grace, honor, and integrity. We won't take no for an answer. We won't take any shortcuts. We will always believe in ourselves and let nothing get in our way. Driven from what's inside, something we can never hide, like an explosion waiting to happen. An unexplainable emotion attached to this dream. Nothing could be more real, so powerful it makes me feel on the cusp of glory. On the cusp of glory.
It wasn't until the late 1960s and early 70s that the true freestyle movement caught on. Back then, it was called hot dogging, and the competitors thrilled the spectators by attacking a mogul field full tilt, throwing in jumps and spins, and not worrying about falling as long as they got up to finish. And sometimes, the bigger the spill, the better.
freestyle competition that I competed in. It was in March of 1971, and actually it was called the National Championships of Exhibition Skiing, not hot dogging or not freestyle. And for me, at that time, just being in the same base lodge with the Tommy Leroys and the Bobby Burns and Susie Chaffee was pretty amazing. But the event at that time really consisted, the format at that time was we had a hill and the best 3 runs were to count. So you had a start gate and you had a finish gate. And the very top part of it was very steep, moguly, and down the middle section had these big bumps and rolls, and then it just kind of rolled off to the finish area. So it became very evident at that event that there were guys who could ski very well in the bumps, guys that were really good in the air, and there were guys that were very good in the ballet, or stunt ballet is what they called it at that time. And so at that event I ended up taking 3rd place, winning $1,000, big money at that time. But it became very evident that the whole concept of the start and finish area, 1 run, needed to be broken up into the 3 disciplines. So then the following year, we had our 3 disciplines: aerial acrobatics, we had mogul skiing, we had ballet skiing. So that's how the format changed over the.
I have to say Wayne was my hero at that point. You know, he was the guy that had the most going for him. He had the most recognition, had the most tricks. Every time you saw that guy, he did something different, and I certainly learned a bunch from him. That was
for us back in the day, for a guy just to do a single back somersault or a front somersault, that was a big deal. But as the athletes got better and better, you're doing double somersaults, triple twisting somersaults.
Basically, by just making mistakes, you ended up developing tricks. So we all just kind of got together periodically when we weren't competing, and we'd hang out and we'd kind of watch each other do stuff, and we'd copy a few things, and all of a sudden we'd have our own variation on the thing, and pretty soon we had another trick and we'd put a name on that thing. It was a great era for us, and the ski industry loved it because all of a sudden there was a reason to buy these new short skis. So jumping in there for us at that time frame, we were very marketable because we knew how to control those short skis. But at the very beginning, it was pretty loose. You showed up and you signed your name, and you gave them your age, and hopefully you qualified as being the right age, was 18 and over, I think.
The money got bigger and bigger. There's a lot, I hate to say, a little bit more greed involved with it, but it also challenged the athletes to go out and become more disciplined and work harder at it and train year-round to become that elite level in freestyle and competitive.
A lot of people get pretty seriously hurt, and that was one of the reasons that the whole real beginning freestyle thing kind of started to disappear. Was we had a couple major injuries. People had back injuries, neck injuries, paralyzation.
There wasn't any set rules, set tricks, or anything like that. So as we developed or accidentally learned tricks on our own, we could namesake our own tricks. So my most infamous trick I called the Wong Banger, and it stuck with me since 1971. And the Wong Banger really was a purely accidental trick. And what had happened was I was skiing down this very steep hill in the very steep transition, and my ski tip stuck in it and was banging into a wall, but I instinctively stuck my poles out in front of me and vaulted and landed back on my feet again. I had done a pole flip, or a front somersault without using a jump. So I said, I'm going to call this the Wong Banger. And every event that we went to back in the day, you could expect the unexpected. Guys like when Troy came out, he would have a trick that I had never seen before. Clendenin would have a trick. O'Leary would have a trick that nobody had ever seen before. And then you'd see these guys competing and accidentally do a trick that they weren't intending to do. You go, wow! Was that really intentional, or was that an accidental? So we'd go, okay, let's go after the competition, go on the back hill, and try to replicate what we had just seen before. That was the whole spirit of that movement at that time. There was so much energy, so much excitement.
I was born and raised in Reno, Nevada, and started skiing basically from infancy at Sky Tavern. Did the junior ski program at Sky Tavern, moved into the race team at Mount Rose. My parents actually met Clay, and Clay came down to Reno and really convinced them that it was not something that was, you know, a bunch of guys out there throwing themselves around, being dangerous and not really thinking about what they're doing, but it's actually kind of calculated and a pretty well-developed thing.
And I called him up and I talked to him and I said, you know, I've got a young man that I'm kind of concerned about. He's pretty wild. He's out doing flips and he's only 10 years old and stuff. But I said I'd really like him to learn in a controlled environment. And this happened to be who became his coach. And he said, no problem. He said, we don't do inverted aerials without practice and checking it out. And we don't do it in an event without being qualified to do it.
I started skiing with Clay when I was 10 or 11, and all year long I was like, Clay, when can I do a front flip? Clay, I just want to do a front flip. Can I do a front flip yet? Because I had already, little did he know, I had already done front flips, but completely bad and no technique or anything. I just went off a jump and went. So his answer was always, Dave, you gotta wait till you get to the water ramps, or you gotta wait till a really deep powder day. Well, we didn't have any really deep powder days that year, so all year long I was just waiting for this water ramp camp where I was gonna be able to flip, because that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to flip. So yeah, when I was 11 years old, I went to my first water ramp camp, did my first front flips, and yeah, went from there.
That was the first thing, but that was really good because that was my point, is having him in a program where he was learning, progressing, having to abide by the rules and do whatever he needed to do, including all of the events, whether he liked it or not. He had to do moguls, he had to build moguls, he had to build jumps, he had to work and do the various things to make that.
Because Wayne was a skier, you know, he grew up skiing and that was what he had his experience in. And then, you know, suddenly these aerialists, gymnasts, ballet dancers, etc., realized, hey, this sport really relates to our sport and what we have experience with, and we can do all these flips that these crazy skiers can't do because we just have the tools to learn those things. So one of the advantages that I had growing up with Clay was that we had the trampolines, we had the gymnasts, we had the gymnastics coaches and all those things that we could learn along the way. So essentially for us it was easier to be able to do all the different aspects of skiing, you know. Especially being at Alpine Meadows, we had a mogul run. We for a few years we had an air hill set up, an aerialist hill, and then we had the terrain park, so we could ski everything we wanted to ski. And
just an example of Clay's influence on getting ski halfpipe in the Olympics would go back to this progression where you needed to have national events, you needed to conduct them, you needed to have a good field, and you needed to have women and men competing. The 1 year, probably second year that David was competing for nationals as a recognized event, the Alpine Meadows Freestyle team had 6 of the top 10 athletes in the top 10 in nationals that year. David won it for his second time.
Coaches in the world, in my opinion, that can really look at something, see it once, and know what it is that went wrong. Free skiing and jumping is so subtle. The things can be, you know, it can be the smallest thing that's making a rotation go wrong, and that can be really hard to pinpoint. You have to look at it in really slow motion. But Clay was always good at, he just had that eye for spotting things and saying, that's exactly what you did wrong. If you do just this, then it'll fix it. And so having that there for you when you're on the hill and having that trust that you knew, you know, Clay basically had your back was huge.
We continually tell them that this is a three-pronged thing. You're an athlete, you're a student, and you're a person. And your conduct on all three is important on this team.
There was people that I actually got to ski with, like C.R. Johnson and Shane McConkey, who were from our area. Clay knew these guys well, and kind of through Clay I was able to meet them and ski with them and hang out with them, and that was really cool. The Reno Tahoe area is one of those places where you have a little bit of everything. You know, there's few places in the world where you can ski in the winter, mountain bike in the summer, have the lake right there. You know, the Yuba River where we can go cliff jumping is just a couple hours away, or even, you know, like it's like an hour and 15 minutes, I think, because I've driven there so many times. Working with Clay and skiing with Clay, one of the biggest things to him was being able to ski everything. You know, it doesn't matter if you're going to compete in everything, but as long as you can ski everything, then you're going to be a well-rounded skier, and you're going to be able to, you know, essentially do anything that you want as a skier. So, I mean, we skied big mountain, we skied moguls, we skied aerials. I can do, you know, I'm one of the few free skiers out there, I think, that can do a full on the aerial jumps. For me, and you know, something that I know Clay would have been right there and been so proud of, was when I really just realized that I was lucky to be out there. You know, when it really came down to it, it didn't matter whether I won or lost. I had the opportunity, you know, taking for example the X Games, I had the opportunity to go out there and ski in front of the world and be viewed by the world and have the world watch me perform my art and what I love to do. So why does it matter who wins or loses or falls or whatever? Just go out and enjoy it and have fun. And when I started thinking that way and skiing that way, that was when I won my first X Games. And then, you know, from there it's just been a whirlwind of really good competition results, but also just, you know, progressing the sport to a whole new level.
22-year-old David Wise out of Reno, Nevada, just won his second straight X Games gold medal, third at Copper Mountain at the Grand Prix. This kid just seems to be on the right trajectory heading towards Sochi.
That's right. I had a chance to talk to him about a week ago, and he had mentioned that he was not nervous for the season. He was just very interested in really showcasing these tricks that he's got. He feels like he's right at the level where he wants to be, and he's ready to just compete.
Reminder, Aaron Blunt, the 16-year-old, has the highest score so far in run number 1, a 91.4.
Typically, David Wise dropping in on the opposite wall. This time, big right side 720. Might know what's coming. Switch, double 1080. Such a tough trick. And the right side double cork 1260 for David Wise. Very difficult. Left side double cork 12, putting together such a run right here. Todd alley-oop flat 5, and he's got it.
Back-to-back double cork 12s from David Wise, and the landing's absolutely flawless.
Well, let's break this down. We have not seen two of the tricks that he just performed flawlessly, as you mentioned. This trick here, a right side double cork 1260 mute, locks that in straight into one the other direction. Now, spinning both ways on skis is so difficult, and to consider that he did a switch double rodeo 1080, which we haven't seen throughout the competition so far, into those tricks is mind-blowing, Todd.
Yeah, you know, one thing that's a little bit of a kryptonite of pipe skiing competitions is that when it snows, it makes the contest, the level just drops, because when you can't carry your speed, you can't do crazy double corks, you can't go big, and that's what people like to see, is the amplitude. So when we were having those storms and it was looking like we might get the event off in the middle of the storm, I was kind of like, I don't know. But then when I heard we got moved to Sunday, I was just like, saw the weather forecast, I was like, man, this is going to be perfect. It's going to be under the California sun. So
to finish things off, good morning. Give me a kiss right here. Switch 7, get them. Well, I'm going to give you one whether you like it or not. See it into the right side 540.
Clay always encouraged me to get married late. He was like, dude, live your life when you're young and experience a million things, and get married when you're like 30. It's all good. You don't have to rush into it. And so it's funny for me to kind of like stick it in his face like, hey Clay, I found a really good girl and I'm just super happy and fulfilled where I'm at. And you know, it's sort of against what he would have said, but it's something that I think he would have been proud of me for. I found the best girl I could possibly find, and I married her, and now we have a beautiful little girl, and it's pretty much one of the most amazing experiences I ever had. Skiing for me is still a rush. I still get that adrenaline. I'm still constantly looking to change. You know, I don't let myself get too stuck doing one thing, and if I do, then I start to get frustrated about it. So I'm always looking for the next thing to do, something to conquer. You know, for me in my life, it's always been about conquering fear. It's not about pushing the limits beyond what I'm capable of. It's just about taking things that I'm scared of and systematically breaking them down into things I'm no longer scared of.
Brita Sigourney, the youngster out of Carmel, California, now making his way up to the slopes for full-time training. She'll go into the lead with a 92 even. And remember, folks, it's 2 runs, so Brita Sigourney has done herself well, because now she has a second run just to back that beauty up.
Already another message.
I started skiing when I was 2 years old. My parents took me up to Lake Tahoe with all my other siblings. They put me into some skis on the sledding hill and sent me down, and apparently I had pretty good balance, so it all went up from there. I think a huge appeal of skiing for me is the whole weightless aspect, and when you do leave the ground and feeling like you're flying. And I think everyone who skis, I think really likes that feeling. And just the ability to be in your own world when you're skiing, and you can take so much stress away just from going out and focusing on other things other than, I don't know, what's bothering you in life. And skiing just takes your mind off of things and lets you focus on yourself. And in a halfpipe you have, 6 or 7 jumps in one run, and the bigger you go, the more time you have in the air, and I think the bigger you go, the more adrenaline you get too. So just all of that combined with that whole weightless aspect is a really cool feeling that you can't really get anywhere else.
She was really coordinated. And also being the youngest of 4 children, she just thought it was normal to do what her older siblings were doing, even though she was several years younger than they were. So she was swimming when she was 2, she was skiing when she was 2, and she had both the athletic ability, because she was really coordinated, and the temperament.
I joined a freestyle team when I was 8 years old at Alpine, and that was when I joined Clay's team, and started competing a few years later after that in moguls and big air and halfpipe.
So she had that kind of unusual combination of enjoying sports, being good at sports, being easy to teach, and the older she got, the more she loved it.
I knew that supposedly there was an age limit to get on the team. You had to be 10 years old to join it, but Clay took me out skiing one day and decided I was good enough, I guess, to hang with the big kids. And that was when I was 8 years old, so that's when I started skiing with them.
I have to say, honestly, if I'd known where it was going when she was 2, I'm not sure I would have wanted her to do the sport.
I knew that he was a good coach. I mean, there are tons of older kids on the team, and I think that was kind of like why the team was such a big deal to be on, because you got to hang with all these old kids that were competing and doing what you wanted to do. So they all looked up to Clay, and I wanted to be a part of it too. Every summer we went on trips to Park City to go to the Utah Olympic Park, and they're called ramp camps. And he always took us on a lot of different adventures while we were there. I probably have some of the best memories from his coaching from summer training, and he was crazy. I mean, there's a reason why he was our coach, because he loved skiing too. And
coaches have a big influence on kids, more than their parents do in a lot of ways.
I mean, every morning we would go up, and before we went to the park, it usually took about 3 hours, because we would just do drills all morning. We would do hop turns down the face of Roundhouse, and like a huge line of just kids doing drills, and nobody liked them. They weren't fun, they were really hard, but I think they made everyone a better skier.
I've never seen anybody before or since that had as much patience as Clay. I saw him, I traveled with him. I mean, things didn't always go well, the kids didn't always behave, the weather wasn't always perfect, but I never saw him lose his cool. And he was just, when everybody else would be losing it, Clay was always calm.
Clay was always, I feel like, my biggest believer. Like, my parents knew that I was a good skier, but Clay was the one that really wanted me to keep going. And
just staying healthy while constantly progressing is one of the biggest challenges for these skiers.
Injuries. Injuries are definitely the toughest part, and I've had a lot of them, so I think I know. Getting injured is a huge possibility, and likely, not only a possibility, but it's probably bound to happen at some point.
It's really hard to watch your child be seriously injured almost on an annual basis.
Actually, I think we had like a half day of team that day, and in the afternoon I just went out skiing with, I went out skiing with David Wise, who is on the US team now and also competes in pipe. And he told me to hit this down rail, which is, like in the park they have rails.
The mental challenge of recovering from injuries, long recoveries, 6-8 months, year after year. It's a lot to ask of anybody. It's really hard to watch your child go through it.
So I went into it the first time, chickened out, pulled out, and I was like, oh, I can't do that. So then I hiked back up and did it again, and my feet just slid out from me, and I landed on my kneecap on the rail. And I didn't know what was wrong at first. I had no idea. It just really, really hurt.
Strong. She's come back so strongly from every injury she's had, which is kind of amazing. I hope she can come back as strongly as she has in the past, so she can just pick right up where she left off. So that would be.
To an athlete, it really boils down to the flexibility, the psychological flexibility that they have. and that will determine how well that they do. And if they have a lot of psychological flexibility in accepting the injury, then it's very likely they're going to be able to move forward. But if they don't have that flexibility, if they feel like they've lost everything because of that injury, it's going to be very difficult for that athlete to move forward.
Yeah, they cut my ski pants off and took me to the hospital. I got surgery on that right away.
Watching it online, waiting for scores to be posted on the computer, and then wondering what's happening when you don't see anything posted. That's, as Julie said, it's a very it can be very dangerous.
Broke my pelvis at the Dew Tour in February, and then a few weeks later I broke my collarbone in France. And then the next year I tore my ACL, and just recently I broke my other clavicle and tore some ligaments in my shoulder and had to get some cartilage repaired in my knee.
And so when they have an injury, they have a new frontier facing them. And so most of them tend to do pretty well because they take that same process into the new place in their life. Recovery.
Oh, look at that, an 86.60. We have a new high score. What do you think of that, Copper? Brita Sigourney sitting on top right now.
I value my friendship, I think, more than the victories, so I'm happy for my friends if they do well. I think I gravitated towards halfpipe and slopestyle because it was more relaxed, and the people I was skiing with were more relaxed, and it wasn't so competitive, and it wasn't just about winning, it was more about pushing the sport. Sarah Bahrke was a huge pioneer, and she actually passed away last year. So that was really hard to deal with, between growing up admiring her and then getting to ski with her and compete against her and be at those huge events with her, standing on the podium next to her, and then just losing her, I think, was really hard on the entire ski industry.
No one had been badly hurt until Sarah Bahrke. She being the most well-known person in her sport, that made it incredibly dramatic. But it could happen any day to any of them.
I actually went to a sports psychologist like for a month before, just to get in the right mindset, because I knew that I needed help dealing with it mentally, and I would get way too stressed to be able to handle it myself, and I wouldn't know what to do.
I think since Sarah Bahrke passed away, Brita always knew this, but the focus has been more on all of the making down the hill safely.